Cheap eats, like fast food, have become more appealing to Chinese customers as the cost of living bites. That's fueled growth at mega restaurant chain Yum China, which runs KFC and Pizza Hut on the Chinese mainland. Yum China reported record revenue of $11 billion, up 15% on 2023. McDonald's also had a good year. Global revenue jumped 10% to $25 billion. Now, both chains are hungry for more market share in China's smaller cities. This year, Yum China plans to open at least 1,500 restaurants. McDonald's is planning around 1,000 new outlets. Joshua Mahony is the Chief Market Analyst at Scope Markets. Great to see you again, Josh. Now, why is McDonald's expanding in China now?
Well, this is all part of a wider scheme that has seen them really build the brand over the course of the years, starting off in 1990, where we saw the first McDonald's franchise open. Last year, we actually saw them take a strategic move. Previously, they've only had 20% ownership of the Chinese operation. They bought up 28% from a US private equity firm. So they now stand at 48%, the remainder held by the 52% being held by a Chinese state-backed firm, CITIC Group. So they're in this position where they're trying to really take advantage of this burgeoning demand in China, and in particular in some of the smaller regions within China for American products, but also for fast food, as consumers within China really start to feel the squeeze and want to take on something that's perhaps perceived as a little bit more of a cheaper eat.
But 1,000 outlets this year, but they're supersizing to 10,000 restaurants in China by 2028. Is that achievable?
Well, it's an interesting one, because when they first entered China, they were talking about 1,500 stores within 5 years. Last year, they were looking at 1,000. We're looking at the same kind of thing once again this year. I mean, look, if there's ever a company that's able to expand at a breakneck speed, it's going to be McDonald's. And interestingly enough, behind the US, it's actually China that has the greatest amount of stores for McDonald's. So they already have a very big footprint. It's just a case of expanding into some of these somewhat untapped secondary and tertiary regions.
They have got competition, though. I mean, how ripe for growth is the fast food market in China? Or are these big brands all getting in each other's way?
Well, you would say that McDonald's is probably the sort of headliner when it comes to US fast food chains. So I don't necessarily think that it's going to be too difficult for them to make their mark when they do move into a new region. Yum brands have really sort of got the lead on them. They already have a significantly larger footprint within China with the likes of KFC and Pizza Hut. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be too difficult, quite frankly. I think they already, of course, have the name, and I think there is going to be significant demand in some of these other cities that at the moment are relatively unserved.
Well, Yum China, you mentioned, they're on a mission, aren't they, to get half of China to eat KFC and Pizza Hut by 2026. So what's your takeaway on the demand for Western-style fast food in China?
I think it makes a lot of sense, quite frankly. You're not necessarily talking about an entirely saturated market that already has brands from all around the world. It's a relatively difficult market to get into, and with the fact that essentially McDonald's China is half owned by a state-owned enterprise, they're perfectly positioned to be able to really align themselves with the local tastes and be able to take advantage of what would likely be a strong bounce back in the Chinese economy after it gets through the current troubling times.
Josh Mahony at Scope Markets, thank you very much.